First of all, just tell us how you got here, because last year you weren't seeded to get out of that regional. You did. This year took a little bit more. Took some extra holes, but
Yeah,
you made it. Managed to
we
get there again.
I guess we like being the underdog. Obviously wasn't a great year for us throughout the year. I know we have tons of talent, and we felt like we were a lot better than the results that we were putting out there. And the last 2 weeks of the season was rough. Yeah, we played at home in an event that we should have won and finished eighth. Conference was not good either, and we just kind of sat back and said, guys, here we got to dig in. If we've got the talent, we know we have the talent. We got to put it together. We got to put our heads down and go get ready at regionals. And we did a great job. That 10 days in between conference and when we left, I think was some of the best practice, but some of also the hardest fighting we did on the golf course. We went out and played, and they really fought hard in rounds, even though they didn't mean anything at that point. It was just like, hey, let's go out and say we're playing regionals right now and go fight. And we had some pretty ugly weather in that stretch, and I think they probably hated me for being on the golf course. And then the second round was that same sort of weather, and it was when we honestly flipped. It was when all the teams were going the wrong direction, and it was, I legitimately had every piece of clothing that I took down there on. It was miserable in the second round, and I'm like, we just played in this, and I know y'all hated me at that time, but that's why we did this. And they rallied that day, finished strong, and we were right back in it. And that was kind of the message that night was, we're right there. We haven't had the success that we wanted this year, but we're right there. And the third day, the weather was perfect, and we just didn't make many putts, and it was starting to look pretty grim there for a bit. Got to the point where we were kind of like, I think we were about 8 back with 6 holes to go. And then it just started making putts, and they're waving back and forth to each other, and everybody's picking each other up, and it's what we've been begging for. Lauren, my assistant, is the best assistant in the country, and she's been begging for this fight and this team to get together like that. And it was just waving and let's go, and I'm like, whoa, where's this been? This is what we're looking for. And the last I don't know, 2 hours of that round was I just sat back and watched, and I'm like, man, this is cool, this is fun. And we got done. Momo had hit the best putt of the week, and it didn't go in on the last hole. And I felt like we needed to get a little bit further ahead of A&M than what we were. They honestly had a pretty good finish stretch. They had 2 par 5s back to back, and I just felt like it was over. We needed 1 or 2 more, and we just got pretty lucky that they, I guess, felt some pressure coming in, and it was like the reset was so fast with our players of understanding, like, we got the momentum. We're the one that was coming back. And so we kind of gathered all around, and I said, look, guys, like, we're going to have 1 hole to make it to a national championship. 2.5 hours ago, we should be going back to the hotel and packing our bags. Like, let's reset. Let's put our heads down. Let's go into this loose, and let's have fun. Like, we shouldn't be here. This is house money at this point. Like, let's see what happens. And then Momo stepped in as the senior that she is, and she said, hey, we haven't had the season we wanted to. This hasn't been what we expected. We got 1 hole to make it to a national championship. Let's go. And it was so cool to see her step up as that senior. Jocelyn and Natasha had just birdied 17 and 18 as seniors. They didn't want their careers to end there in Lubbock, so it's a whole lot nicer to end it in Carlsbad. So it was cool to see how they stepped up there at the end. It was fun.
How much easier is that mental edge when you have 22 and 23-year-olds versus 18 and 19-year-olds maybe in that moment?
Yeah, it was good to see. I think they were calm. They had been in regionals before, and they had felt that pressure before. I was super impressed with our freshmen that how they did in the playoff. Like, I put them out first. I threw them to the wolves. Like, like, hey, here we go, girls. And the way Sam and Lauren played that first hole, I think really set the tone for the seniors to come in behind them. I mean, I felt like Lauren made the birdie putt, and I'm like, I think this is about to happen. You got your seniors coming down. They're running hot coming in. I felt really good about it, and I kind of stacked it that way. I wanted the freshmen to go first, and I told them, I said, look, like, your job is to walk down that fairway and bounce your ponytails, and you walk down with all the confidence in the world, because they're going to follow right behind you, and they're going to do the same thing, and Texas A&M is going to look at you and go, ooh, they're comfortable. And they did it, and it was really cool to see that. I think a big step for them in the future of this program. And then the seniors to come back and do what they did in that last group. Natasha's 3-iron was legitimately probably the best 3-iron I've ever seen in my life.
Is that an apt metaphor for them as seniors at the class, then grit meeting talent in the big moment?
Yeah, it was pretty cool to watch. Natasha had a stretch in the second round that was like, okay, like, she doesn't want her career to end, and she made 4 birdies in a row right when that weather was just getting miserable. She's got so much talent; it's fun to watch. Momo's got, Momo's just so solid and so steady. But I mean, Natasha's 3-iron, it's just a shot I'll never forget. It was insane.
There was a lot of talk between fairway wood or 3-iron, right? So, like, the ability to be convicted.
It was one of my happier coaching moments of my career. She was dead set on 5 wood, and I had just stood pretty close to that same spot with Lauren Temp, a freshman, who hits it far, and I talked her down even one less than what she wanted, and she hit it on the back fringe. So I knew, like, 5 wood was going to hit the pro shop. And, I was like, okay, well, you hit it 25 yards further than you did in regulation. Like, we got some adrenaline, we're pumping. I think we can get 3-iron there. And she's literally standing there with her 5 wood in her hand. And I'm like, I really like 3-iron. And I was like, if I'm wrong, it's my fault. But I like 3-iron. And she hit it, and it took off. And I mean, I've never yelled at a golf ball so loud in my life. Be right! It was so good. And it landed just over the front fringe, crept up about 12 feet. And I mean, honestly, what nobody's talking about, everybody's talking about 3-iron. The putt was insane. I mean, the putt was 12 feet downhill with about 2 feet of break. It was one that if it wasn't absolute perfect speed, it wasn't going in. And it was absolutely perfect speed and fell on the top edge. And it was one of those scenarios where I felt like at that point, Texas A&M had 2 putts they had to make to tie, and the wind was totally knocked out of them when that putt went in. It was wild to watch.
Just that mix of 2 freshmen and then 3 seniors, just that kind of have the future and the past and present together. What does that say about the program you're building here?
Yeah, our freshman Lauren stepped up in an incredible way. Sam didn't play her best, but Sam's got some incredible rounds in her, and we all know that. But for Lauren to step up and finish 11th, I think it was 11th in her first ever regional, that kid's come an incredibly long way in the last 6 months. She is so coachable. She listens to everything. She will do anything to do the right thing to be in the lineup. She's a great kid. Sam's the same way. We've got 3 players signed. We just signed a transfer from Arkansas State that has shot under par in 5 of her 8 tournaments this year. Really solid player, shot 13 under in an event. She can go. We've got a freshman coming in from Columbia that's ranked 170 in the world. Arguably we can't look back at recruiting classes, but probably the strongest recruiting class we've ever had here. And we've got a Swedish player that is coming off injury that is starting to play some really good golf and played a lot of really good golf before the injury. So we're building something here, and it's starting to go in the direction I saw it going. I'm excited about it. Our freshman class they're great. They're great kids. They're so bought in for this program. We're gonna make some moves here in the next couple years. I'm excited for it. But yeah, the future's really bright.
I think you said last year you weren't going to just take another job to take another job. You wanted to go somewhere where you felt the resources were in place to do what this program can do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were accounting for the Midwest weather, but you talk about out here in a practice round and then how that comes into play.
Yeah.
You have an advantage kind of maybe being here sometimes because of the unpredictability, right?
For sure. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but we had a pipe burst in our indoor facility in December. We didn't have a practice facility this spring until mid-March. This team, I mean, not to make excuses, but like this team didn't play really well this spring. Well, we didn't have a practice facility. I can assure you we were the only team in the country that wasn't chipping and putting. We had nothing. There was 1.5 feet of water in this building. So it was unfortunate how the winter was because we just didn't get to get out much. The winter before we could. This winter we didn't. But, they have the resources for us to get on a plane on Friday and go to Florida. We did that a lot this spring. It wasn't fun, but we had to go do what we had to do. And I think it's really cool to see what we did last week because of that, because, a lot of teams would have just banked it and just said, yeah, it's over. This isn't fun. This is miserable. And we kind of embraced it and went with it. But yeah, I mean, the weather we played in a couple weeks ago was probably the worst I've ever seen, especially in that time of year. And, I think the second round this week, it was all worth it. And I do, we're building something here, and family's happy here. I'm happy here. Like, I'm trying to get this place back into the national spotlight as it should be, because that's where it used to be. And we've got all the resources. We've got the indoor facilities now. That's better than it was a couple months ago now that it's redone. We've got so much support. We've got our SID comes with us in postseason. A lot of people don't do that. We've got a strength coach that comes with us in postseason. Almost no coaches do that. I've got, Babinski's coming next week, and Tim House is coming next week, and Tom Mitchell's coming next week. Like, I was filling out the form this morning. I'm like, damn, wow, we're bringing a lot of people. No other teams are doing that. It shows how much Purdue cares about our athletics here and how much Purdue buys into golf, and that's not the case all over the country. I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be in this spot, and I'm hoping that we take great advantage of it. I think we will. I think with the recruiting class we've got, we're about to make some great moves, and I'm excited for the future here. But it's, the Midwest weather scares a few people away, and I'm a Southern guy that likes the beach and the warm weather, but it's not so bad. It does have its advantages.
That's not your recruiting pitch. Like, hey, you want to learn to play in any conditions?
Yeah. Well, it's more of a, hey, we travel a lot in the winter. We do a lot of we see a lot of beaches in the winter during that time of year. Yeah, that's more the recruiting pitch.